Hello, everyone. It's Cassandra, and I have a question for you. Have you ever wondered if your greatest setback could actually become the foundation for your greatest comeback? Today, we're joined by speaker, author, mentor, and podcast host David Chametzky, whose mission is to help people discover the resilience they already have within themselves. Welcome, David.
Hi, thanks so much for the opportunity.
I was really interested in your website, all the things that you had on there, your books, and the titles to one book in particular. But I just want to ask you before that, you've built your work around resilience
hmm
and finding your path. So was there a defining moment in your own life that made you realize adversity could become your greatest teacher?
It definitely has been. When I look back at my life, even when I was younger, I didn't recognize that the adversity that I faced became one of my strengths, how to overcome that. Really, it's happened a bunch of times. So when I started my practice, the On the Path, it was because I went to therapy and I learned this technique called havening, which is a psychosensory touch modality. And my therapist was like, "Hey, man, you're getting good at this therapy stuff." And my bachelor's degree was in behavioral sciences. And I was like, "All right, I'll do this as a side hustle. I'll do this." And I did, and I was able to change people's lives, helping them get through some events in their lives that might have held them back. And that's what that On the Path stands for. It's about personal attitudes towards happiness. I use this all the time. Ram Dass, the famous mystic, says we walk each other home. And while we're walking each other home, sometimes we get things in our way, and you need to get a clearance. So you find somebody like me who's a pathfinder, and I help you through the obstacles. I assist you to get through those obstacles to become your best self. And that's one of the many ways because I even had a suicide attempt. So when I wasn't using my resources, it all carried heavy. Life will get life, times a million, and how we carry that or when we use our resources. That's really what a lot of the On the Path is. The suicide attempt, divorces, you know, miscarriages when I was married. I didn't have the miscarriage, but the partner goes with it, and we experience and see things that nobody should need to see. And, it's all those things that lead us to exactly where we're supposed to be. And when we stop resisting a little bit, or we're able to cut down or cut through whatever obstacles we see, that's when we get to turn ourselves up and we get to have those times to soar.
Obstacles, that's kind of the name of the game.
Yeah.
And again, people like you can help others who can't see it because they're in it. And when you could see that obstacle and point it out, don't you see most people have that light bulb go on
Oh,
above
I
their
love
head?
that. I love that when I do that. When I'm sitting with somebody and they get it, it clicks. Even the havening touches that we use, there's times, and what it is, it's like watching a horror movie. I'm sure you've watched a horror movie at some point with the lights off, right?
Yes.
Scary. Oh my God. But if you watch that same movie with the lights on, still scary scenes, but you don't feel less scared. Same thing here is it actually helps, the fight or flight response systems in our amygdala. And through that, it teaches us so much. And that's the power. It's the kind of, we always talk about practicing the pause. It helps you with that pause because you're stopping and you're seeing things a lot differently.
I love that analogy, and it is true. I watch a scary movie with the lights on, and it's not that big of a deal
Oh,
until I go to bed and I have to go to bed with the lights on.
sure.
But when we do see that, and it's still there, we still have our issues, but we have someone that, is helping us through it. Like you said, we all are walking each other home.
Yep.
And I love that. I love that phrase. So you often talk about helping people soar instead
Mhm.
of simply survive. What do you think is the biggest belief that keeps people from stepping into the life that they're truly capable of living?
Well, I think a lot of people have those limiting beliefs, including myself years ago. Uh, because what you do is, we're told either protective, sometimes we have protective family members or just from bad experiences, past experiences. You're like, hey, how many times are you going to touch a hot stove? Right? We learned that as a child. Same thing happens when people want to protect us. They don't want us to get hurt as we grow up. Oh, you can't do that, Cassandra, because of X, Y, Z. Whatever reasoning they want. The sun isn't bright today. You can't do that. Well, we start believing those things that I can't, right? The can'ts start building up. And I always go turn the can'ts to the cans and really turning that around. And that's really what happens. We get stuck either through experiences. So, again, if you've had bad experiences in relationships, oh, I always date that guy, that type of person, that girl, that guy, whatever. And there might be patterns, but then why are we making those patterns? It's the recognizing of the patterns and how we move forward. That's where some of the healing goes thing. The recognition of what is our triggers, knowing those, what are the obstacles in our path. It's not only everybody else's fault, how we react to the outside indicators, it really takes us to that next level.
The limiting beliefs,
Mhm.
and also I feel it goes along with the conditioning that we were growing up in, or we
Sure.
we were growing up in. Limiting beliefs. You're a girl, so you want a man to take care of you. You don't have to do anything. Or you're a guy, and you have to be strong, and you can't cry.
100%.
All of these things, and then again the conditioning. Oh, everything that is bad will happen to you. That's just the way it is. You hear that so many times that you believe it. So you're grown up and it's like, well, everything bad will happen to me. Where the hell did you hear that? You
It's a
know,
story. It's a story we tell each other, and
the
that's why I
story.
I I love when I'm either ghostwriting or when I work with people and we rewrite the story. And it doesn't mean physically rewriting anything. You're not going to change your past. I don't
Right.
I don't change anybody's past, but we learn from our past and how to move forward through it. And that's really what I love doing. That's the why I do what I do because you said earlier today about that spark. When you get that one spark of somebody recognizing the spark, that's why I talk a lot about the phoenix. And the phoenix, everybody goes, oh, the phoenix dies and it comes anew. It
Yeah.
doesn't die. It turns to ashes. So the real story is, and we just assume, we make the wrong assumption, right? The wrong story. The phoenix turns to ashes. 100% true. Well, the thing that turns the ashes back into the next bird is a spark from God. And that's what I always love reminding people their spark. You might not feel it. You might not think you're worthy of it because of, again, our pasts. But everybody is worthy of redemption. Everybody's worthy of so much more. And that's the real Phoenix moments in life when you really get up and say, this is not going to be the way my story ends. And it's not so easy. It's not easy because of a lot of things, choices that we've made to make our ashes, but we all can and have the ability to rise out of those ashes.
Do you find that people come to you when they are feeling stuck or they know that there's more to their life than what they're in right now? What is the main reason that you've noticed?
Well, because when I talk about my story, so my story isn't clean. It's not a vanilla story, much like the rest of our lives. Most of us are like that. And when they hear my story, they're like, "How'd you get through that?" And I tell them, I didn't think I was going to get through it again. I'm a suicide survivor. So, that day, the 30 for 36 hours, that was my goal. And
Mm.
obviously, and I'm very glad that I did not succeed, and most of us don't succeed. So statistically speaking, we hear about the 11% of people who are successful, but there's 89% of the rest of our population who have attempted, gone through it. And that doesn't even take in consideration people who are just like, oh, just thinking about it, not actively doing it. And that's why I do what I do, because I've learned how to what works for me. I don't say that I can help everybody. I don't think there's any one solution for everybody, but I know some of the darkness that other people have experienced. And even if I haven't experienced that, I know what we have to do. And sometimes you just have to sit and be quiet, right? I know that the Uncle Dave-ness of me, which is one of the nicknames that I have, you sometimes just have to be that person where people come to, and that's how they come to me. Is the randomest times I could just be talking at a party or at a ball game. There was one time a gentleman just sat right next to me, and the universe provides people
Yes.
that you need to. He just needed to sit and talk, and I was able to give him that that safety and feeling comfort around that.
One last question. Your podcast is called Peace, Love, and Bring a Bat. That's really an unusual title. So, what's the story behind it, and what does it represent to you?
Well, it represents a lot. The further I dive into that, so I've been doing the podcast since 2021, right? Middle of the pandemic, we all started podcasts. And while at that time I was a peer recovery advocate, so I was helping people through that, I was looking for those people who say that they're broken. None of us are broken, but those people who are like, man, I need something. And that was that peace and love. I wanted to remind them about the Phoenix and that there's love. There's always love within ourselves. And after my suicide attempt, one of the questions I received was, do you love yourself? And at that time, I didn't. I didn't even know that was an option. And, I was like, what do you mean? And I know I can love others. I didn't know that love really starts with myself. So that's where the peace and love comes in. And when I end every episode, I'm like, I hope that's the foundation of your life is finding peace and love. That doesn't mean it's all perfect. And that doesn't mean that we love everything. We have to understand what the meanings are for us. Now, the bat, you might not have noticed, but I have a New York accent. So I grew up in New York and I wanted to embrace it. I also grew up with 30 years of corporate experience, which meant I knew a lot about acronyms. And and I also like baseball. But we don't talk about, I mean, we can talk about baseball, but the acronym for the BAT is about bringing awesome thoughts. I love when I have guests coming on and they tell me because whatever my story is mine. And I want to make sure that my audience knows what other people have done when they've been in their darkness, when they've gone through the things they need to. And another one of those things is, you had mentioned in the green room about my teal glasses. It's also about the bat is also about being authentic today. I'm always the person that you see on podcasts as well as off podcasts because I just think once we're our most authentic self, we're comfortable. I don't care. I mean, you can't see it too well, but I have a mullet. I have all these things that's who I am. You could ask me to. I've had people, hey, why don't you cut off your hair and make it more conform? I'm like, I love it. Does it bother you? And the people it bothers, I'm like, all right, then it's not for you. It's okay. And I'm not for everybody. But that's where the peace, love, and bring a bat. And then I talk about hitting your sweet spot. I'm not sure. Have you ever swung a baseball bat
Oh,
years ago?
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So when you hit it the right way, you hit that sweet spot and you know
Right.
you did the best that you could. It might not have been a home run, but if you could do the best that you could do, that's the philosophy behind that peace, love, and bring a bat. It's all about having the right balance. But when you hit your sweet spot, you know you got it. And that's really what it's all about. And I love it. I bring on guests who are, guides who help people through a lot of different things, but also a lot of leadership. We talk about leadership because leadership starts with us just like love. And while I had 30 plus years of corporate experience. So I blend that and besides assisting people with writing books, I also, I'm an executive coach where I train people to, work with a reduced stress lifestyle.
Perfect. David, how can people reach you?
The great part is David Chametzky. It's a unique name. It's authentic. um, and there aren't too many of us. So I think I'm the only David Chametzky in the world. Well, I know there's a cousin who actually spells his Chametzky different, an Ellis Island thing. So with the Z, and look for the guy with the bat. So it's David Chametzky on all social media, and I'd love them or reach out to me.
Perfect. Thank you so much for joining us today. So, if you feel like you have a setback and you want it to become that foundation for your greatest comeback, guess who you need to see? David. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you, David, for being here.
Thank you,
And
Shay.
I'm Cassandra, and I will see you next time.